MetaMentors, episode number 37, the run up to Christmas. We got a big show today, Ben. Bitcoin, but we're gonna chop that up and make that its own separate video. So we're gonna start with the news and the disclaimer. And as always, there is an abundance of action in the crypto market. Even though it's moving sideways, there's always stuff happening. Why don't you tell us a little bit about it?
All right, we'll do. This week, while SBF is in the news a bunch, I'm going to try to make everybody's holiday season a little brighter and just not talk about Sam Bankman-Fried or FTX or Alameda at all. So I found a few news stories that we can just skip over that. We'll get back to learning about him or keeping up with that situation after the first of the year. But for now, we're going to talk about stuff that is more enjoyable, I guess, more exciting.
The up and up.
Yeah, the up and up rather than the guy who's trying to rip off everybody in the community. So
yeah, he's one person in this industry that is just the news likes negative. Take it how you want. It's not what it's about. He doesn't represent crypto and Web3 in the whole.
There you go. And in fact, he represents what they're trying to eliminate. Exactly. Is get rid of the traditional finance, get rid of the fraud. They want stuff to be transparent and they want it to be open source where everybody can see what's going on. So, with that being, we like talking about Elon Musk. If he turns on us, it's going to be a sad day for crypto if Elon Musk turns on the community. But there are rumors of a new Twitter coin getting kicked around. Now, I will say the project, the stuff that they found, they're referring to it as Twitter coin. And so half the people who are speculating that they're going to create a new coin, Twitter coin or Bird coin, something along those lines. And the other half are assuming they're just trying to figure out how to integrate Dogecoin, because we all know of Elon's affinity for the Dogecoin. So we don't know if under advisement they're actually thinking about doing a different coin or whether they'll use Dogecoin to integrate into Twitter. But we know how popular Twitter has been lately. It's the obvious next step for a website, a company that's, one, trying to upgrade and get better, but two, also making that turn into Web3, which is what everybody's doing. Somehow they're going to integrate some sort of a content creation video platform. They're going to have creators on there the way that YouTube does, and they're looking at doing more direct, quicker, and low-cost payments directly to the content creators. And the way to do that is with crypto. So there's people who are kind of leaking some information. Like I said, the project name is like Twitter coin, but they don't know whether or not they're thinking about doing a new coin or pulling over Dogecoin and integrating it into the Twitter space. So that would
matter. Doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter either way. It's just part of the fun, right? People are like, speculate. What could it be? Is it going to be Dogecoin?
Well, that's part of the fun is going, well, if you think it's going to be Dogecoin, now's the time to invest in that. If you think it's going to be Twitter coin, now's the time to start saving some money. So when they do their initial coin offering or however they would do it, to be ready for that. But it is fun because this is the kind of stuff that gets the markets kind of excited and gets to start moving again. When if Elon Musk tweeted out "bark bark" or something like that, it would just send Dogecoin through the roof. So
crypto does thrive on hype.
Yeah. That's interesting. No doubt Twitter Pi payments most viable option. Nothing better than Pi out there. Pi is one of the tokens that we're going to talk about next week on how to earn free crypto in 2023. That's one of the coins, Pi. That's one of the options. It looks like somebody's throwing out there that there's nothing better than Pi for the new Twitter coin. That's interesting. That's just one person. I'm gonna look more into that because, like I said, next week we're doing how to earn free crypto for free in 2023. I think is the title of that video. Yeah. So we got some stuff like Pi, B, Sweatcoin, XYO. That'll be a good episode. And apparently we got another faction on it. It might be the new Twitter coin. Holy smokes.
There's a twist in the story. Stay tuned, people. Those darn kids are at it again.
There you go. That's perfect. Twitter coin is code for not saying Dogecoin. And I could see it going either way. One, you'd want full control as a centralized company, especially a private company like Twitter. It would be nice to set a coin up from the ground level and do it exactly the way you want to. But I just saw our banner scrolling across the bottom.
You created that banner.
I created that?
Yeah, that wasn't me. I don't talk like that.
I don't spell like that. That's a terrible subscribe. There's an extra S in there.
You probably had a few extra Mountain Dews.
Anyways, it could be a brand new token or it could be Dogecoin. I thought that was exciting. Keep an eye on the Dogecoin price because I bet you see some activity as that story gets more and more interest behind it.
Hype.
Yeah. So the next thing that I've got is less good news. Let me bring it up. Here's the headline. Forget crypto winter. This is a Bitcoin bloodbath. And this is just your general naysaying. And actually, I say naysaying. It's just kind of reporting the facts. Like, it's not really saying that it's the end of crypto, but it is saying that we just keep going down. When you think we've hit a new low, we just go a little bit lower. And then the FTX thing happens and we go a little bit lower. And this is specifically, they interviewed this guy, a crypto trader from Abu Dhabi. And he was talking about how he had like 20 coins and then he had to sell some because they were all losing, then 10 coins. And then he had to sell some of those because he was getting really low. And now he's down to just what he has left of his Bitcoin and his Ripple. And so it's just talking about the extended length of time and not just how it's not worse than the other times, but there was so much more money in it at the beginning, at the end of the last bull run, that this bear cycle feels worse. You know what I mean? So there was either a lot more people in and hurt, or a lot more people put more money in and it's gone way down. So as a seasoned investor like Ryan and I, we understand that this is a good time because this is when you want to be loading up and getting ready for the next bull run. But for people who are just getting in, and I've been through two of them now where they've ran up and ran down. You know what I mean? And so I've gone through it. I know what it's like. That first time I gave up crypto. I said, clearly it's over. This is it. You know, crypto's dead. I sold all my coins, whatever I had left of it, and moved on with my life and got into other types of investing. But then it came back and then it dropped again. And this time I'm not selling everything. I'm not getting out. This is the time to really dig in, figure out what projects you want to invest in for either the long term or the next bull cycle for those fast runs, and get in, because when the bull cycle starts, the bull run, when the bull run starts, the more stuff you have, the more options you're going to be able to do. You're either going to be able to hold on. If staking and interest goes up, you're going to be able to pull more money out of it. You're going to be able to sell stuff. You're going to be able to move stuff. Just even like Ryan and I invest in NextEarth, or have quite a bit of investments in NextEarth. And I think about this all the time when I was buying Polygon for 40 cents, when it went up to $1.20 and it's been as high as $2.50, you're still buying a 99-cent plot of land. But if you buy your crypto now for 40 cents and it goes up to $2.40, you can get 6 times as much land. You're still buying the same price, but now's the time to be investing in these crypto projects that you're excited about, that you know you're going to either use or you know somebody else is going to want when the bull market turns around. When everybody right now is getting out and interest has waned and prices are dropping, now's the time for people who know that it's coming back to start building up. And so that's what I'm doing. I'm buying Polygon, not really as an investment, but more as firepower when these NFTs and these other projects start firing back up. I'm going to be able to buy a lot more because Polygon price is going to keep rising up as the bull market happens.
Such a different, different takes on different ways, right? But while the market is down, now's an opportunity to figure out, do your due diligence, figure out what you're interested in.
Yeah.
And you don't have, and this, I'm constantly telling people this because it's hard for people to wrap our brain around. You can start investing with like no money, essentially less than $10. Like you don't have to buy, you just start buying little bits as you figure things out. I mean, if you want to do this, if you don't, you don't, I get it, but you don't, it's not like you got to put 10 grand down to play this game. Like it's so minimal, the amount of money. That now the downfall with this is once you start, it really kind of starts taking on. You got to be careful because you just want to keep plugging more and more and more into it.
Yeah. Well, a lot of investors say that this time, like people are afraid to invest because the price keeps dropping, but they talk and they say, well, the more the price keeps dropping, the less risky it is, because what you could have bought for $10,000 8 months ago, you could buy for $1,000 now. And in fact, now you can start looking at the ones that we've been going down for a year. So you can get on some of these projects. Next Earth is one that I've been overly impressed with in the last 2 months. Like they're marketing well, they're doing their social media well. They've got new projects, new stuff coming out. They started their staking program. They've got the Christmas gift card. You can actually buy an NFT or an NFT gift card for a friend or a family member for them to be able to come into Next Earth and buy a property and get their own NFTs and buy their own metaverse land, which is, I haven't seen anybody else doing anything like that. And I thought that's even though their price of their coin is way down, that's a project that's still kicking, even though it's done nothing but drop for the last 12 months. And to me, that's the kind of stuff you need to be looking at. And if you're thinking that this stuff is ever going to turn back around, now's the time. Now you can go look at everything. Everything looks good. This is how I want to say it. I'm thinking it in my head, but this is how I want to say it. Everything looks good November of last year. Everything's going up. That's the riskiest time to buy because Ethereum and Bitcoin were up 20%, and so was Dogecoin and Elon Mars SafeMoon coin. You know what I mean? Like everything was up 20%. So it's like, oh, these must all be equally good. So you just pick one of those. Well, if you pick the wrong one, the not Bitcoin or Ethereum, then you realize when the market starts dropping how wrong you were. But when everything's down like this, you can go look at the ones and it's like, okay, well, SafeMoon has dropped 99.9%. It's down. It's basically a crap coin. Ethereum has dropped 40%. That's painful, but it's still held pretty well. You know what I mean? So you get to, when the market drops, like Ryan and I always say, when the tide goes out and you get to see who's skinny dipping, you can see which projects didn't deserve your money in the bull run. Now, the ones that are still chugging along, the ones that are like, that's all right, we've managed our money well, we're still hiring, we've got some cool projects coming out, here's our roadmap for 2023, and they're not going, well, we're just going to go on hold and hope that the market turns around. Those aren't the ones you want to be real confident in. You want to be confident in the ones that are like, here's the plan, we have the money to do it, this is what we're doing. Get excited because these are the projects getting ready to come out. If you can find one of those projects that are way down in price, that's a good time to buy. That reminds me, this is not financial advice. I forgot to give the disclaimer at the beginning of this. This is not financial advice. Everything you see on this channel is for educational or informational purposes only. Please do your own research before you invest.
Lots of it.
Anything to add to that?
Heck no. No.
Okay.
Do your own research, please. Like you once said, we are a little bit riskier with our investments than maybe most, which is the good part about that is that's how we ended up here. If we were more conservative, which I consider myself conservative, but if we were ultra conservative, we would have probably passed on crypto. And 6 months, a year, 3 years from now, we'd be regretting that. So do your own research. Goes without saying.
All right. You can see on mine. Speaking of being in the bear market right now, this is where we were at 1 year ago, $50,000 Bitcoin. So that means this is what we've done all year. Basically just drop. And then we think it's dropped all it's going to drop. It dropped a little bit more. So it's been a rough year, but if you go back to all, that's what it does. We're going to talk about this because today is the Bitcoin episode. So we're going to go into this in a little more detail in the episode. But this happens. It goes up, it goes down. It goes up, it goes down. And every time it gets a little bit bigger. And so if you're thinking like we're thinking that eventually, or that not eventually, but this is going to stick around, then where will it be next time? You know, how high up here will it get? And this is as good of a price as you're going to get for a while. It could drop another 1,000 or 2,000, but if it goes up to 180 to $200,000 of Bitcoin, it really won't matter if you bought it in for 19,000 or 15,000. Just like Ryan said, just a little bit here and there. Don't do anything unsafe. Don't get a second mortgage on the house and buy Bitcoin right now. Just put in a little bit, whatever you can afford, because this is the time. If you were doing that up here, it wouldn't have made that big of a difference. But you're doing it down here, which means from here to there, you've got, that's a 4x. So every $100 you're putting in here is worth $400, what it would have been last November. So every little bit counts. You've got a whole new year, 2023. You should be thinking about your investing strategy, not just for crypto, but for all your traditional stuff. But make crypto a small part of it, because this is the best possible time to invest. You know, it'd be like investing over here. I guess I'm sort of repeating myself now, but it's like investing right here. And eventually, this is 2025 right here. This is going to go up. Now's the time to get in.
Yeah, and not investing, from my point of view, not investing because it's a currency that could go up, or it's a project or whatever. It's because of the technology. Look at the underlying technology. I think you'll find it's undeniable if you look at the underlying technology, and that's why it's revolutionizing basically every entity across the world. Corporate, personal, I mean, everything.
With any other type of technology, if it was doing what crypto is doing right now, companies would abandon it. If there was a new soda or something like that out and people were dropping dead after drinking it, you wouldn't see any sponsorship. You wouldn't see any company pushing it. But right now, while the bottom is falling out, Disney, Nike, every fashion store in the world, every tech company in the world, everybody, Starbucks is using blockchain and finding out ways to incorporate it into their business because the technology is undeniable. The projects may come and go. It may vary and may alter like on what's popular right now, but the technology is here to stay. And even in this, what do they call it? A bloodbath, a crypto Bitcoin bloodbath. Companies, Fortune 500 companies are still, doing whatever they can to get into it. So,
yeah, it's changing everything business-wise and personal.
Yes. So
for the better, we believe.
Now that the bloodbath is over, a lot of people believe that it will rise again. So this was December 8th. So this was just yesterday when it was updated. I guess originally written December 7th. But they're talking about when the crypto bull market will finally start. So we're obviously in a pretty rough time right now. The good news is a lot of people think that there will be another bull market. The bad news, and it's only bad on how you look at it. The bad news is it's not going to start anytime soon. It sounds like a lot of people saying that Bitcoin could make another low in the first quarter of 2023. So Bitcoin will become even more affordable the first part of next year. But as the end of the year comes on, what they're kind of basing their information on is the new Bitcoin halving date, which is in 2024. Yeah. April of 2024. In fact, I have the clock right there. 1 year, 132 days, 1 hour, 1 minute, and 25 seconds until the next Bitcoin halving. That's kind of what they're thinking. Every Bitcoin halving since 2012 has been in the middle of a bull run, and actually it's gone on to new and better highs every time. And it happens every couple of years or every few years. And so they're expecting it to happen again the way it has happened every time so far. Now, even though the halving is in April of 2024, they're expecting the market to start before that. So it's going to be a rough early 2023. And as they kind of kick off the rust and find out which projects are going to go to zero and which projects are going to stick around, you'll start to get some timid money back into it. People will start investing in Bitcoin as we get the institutional investments into Bitcoin, as they get more regulation, as they get more, perhaps an ETF. I know there's some countries that are doing a spot ETF on Bitcoin. I don't think America has any immediate plans to. But as soon as you can start getting some more of that institutional money in there towards the end of the year, as it's building up towards the next Bitcoin halving, that's going to be the start of the bull market. They think the halving is going to be in the bull market, and they think after that it's going to go up to even higher highs. I hesitate to even give some of the numbers, but they're talking like six figures and up. So
for sure, yeah,
which would be awesome. So it makes your $15,000, $20,000 Bitcoin right now seem like a good investment, not a bad one.
And I've seen, or I've heard some talk previously about the market will usually start to climb roughly 9 months, give or take, before the halving is to take place. So, and I've also seen some overlapping where people, based on, previous charts and stuff like that, the decline we're on now, they see it going into April or May of next year, basically a 6-month window. And we've just started entering that, but who knows? You have all these different data.
Oh yeah.
You can't look at the past only to predict the future, because so much more is happening with adoption and as regulation takes effect, but it's all going to be a process. We always
never know. You never know when the next FTX is going to hit.
Right.
You know what I mean, or something like that. So that stuff, those black swan events, obviously hurt. But 9 months before the halving puts it to August of next year. So if you're looking for, I like people to throw out dates and numbers. I know you can't, bet the farm on it, but it's kind of nice. It's like, okay, well, August of next year, August is the 8th month. So you got basically 9 months, almost 10 months to try to get some money into some of these projects. If August is the start of it. And if that's the case, then obviously it's going to be a slow start. You're going to build up to it. So 10 to 12 months from right now, if you think, okay, what can I do if I'm putting 10% of my paycheck into this project or that project, you can start getting some goals and some ideas of what projects you want to get in, how much Bitcoin you want. It's really fun. And if you look at this like a game that you're only putting the money in that you can afford to play with, then it really does become exciting. I mean, like I said, if you mortgage the house and buy Bitcoin and it drops 10%, that's going to be a punch in the gut. But if you're like, well, instead of buying a $70 or $80 video game, or instead of buying this subscription or that subscription, if I can rustle up $100 or $200 a month, that's $1,000 into one of these projects in the next 10 months. and $1,000 in a project that has a chance to 50 or a 100x, that's exciting.
Or better yet, spread across multiple projects.
No, YOLO it all in Dogecoin, the new Twitter coin.
Yeah, you heard it first here.
But yeah, I thought that was pretty cool. So the Bitcoin halving, the date we're looking for is Friday, April 19th of 2024. And this varies a little bit, if I'm correct. And there's something about how fast it's doing. I don't know if it can vary. Maybe that's exact. I guess, according to this, we got 35, 34, 33. I mean, they got it down to the second. So
yeah. I'm unsure about that. I've heard what you're saying, but I think that might have been with some other projects, maybe. But I don't know.
See, because like it says projected here. So I think there's some stuff, because I don't know, maybe if it's not producing as fast, or making the blocks as fast, or if there's more power, or if it starts going up the price if more people are mining. I'm not 100% sure how it works. But.
The average block time is 10 minutes. So I wonder if that's kind of what it's factored off of.
Yeah, I don't know. But I do know that here's the last 4 years, the halvings, and it shows you the block height. And then this is what the block reward. Every time a block is created, they make 25 Bitcoins, then halved to 12.5, then halved to 6.25. And the next time will be 3.125. So it means every time one of these blocks is done, they're only making 3 new Bitcoin. And when that kind of stuff starts to happen, and when a lot of people start to realize, frick, every time that a block is made, they're only making 3 Bitcoins that have to be divided among everybody in the world who wants Bitcoin.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh my gosh. Well, then, we already know there's only 21 million of them in existence, or that will ever be produced. Not even all of them are made yet. Yeah, you got to get it. Got to get it. There is. The demand is there. Very exciting. That's what I've got for the news. A little bit of rumors on Twitter coin, a little bit of bad news with the bloodbath, and a little bit of good news of the bull market will eventually arrive. So
yeah. Awesome. Always something happening in the news. Yes.
Also, Sam Bankman-Fried is a fraud, and I hate him. But
and they just keep giving him airtime.
I know. I wish they'd throw him in jail and interview him from there.
All right. That's the news. You stay
all classy. That's fit to print.
Web3.
Good show. You stay classy.
All right.
That's what I should have said. Go yourself, Sam Bankman-Fried.
Episode 37, MetaMentors, Bitcoin. We're probably long overdue to do this, but there's so much information out there with Bitcoin. But this is going to be our take of our style going into it. We're going to stay with our normal style, but let's jump right into this. Before we do, actually, we're going to put some timestamps so you can jump down below if you want to hit the highlights, comment, like, subscribe, help us get to 1,000 so we can start getting paid, help the algorithm. That's what this is about, education and getting paid. I'm a fan of both. How about you, Ben?
Yes. Fan.
Come on.
Both.
All right, here we go. Little information about the story of Bitcoin.
The episode of Cold Fusion. In 2009, a man by the name of James Howells proved himself to be a visionary. He started mining Bitcoin before anyone else had ever heard of it. James managed to stockpile 7,500 Bitcoins when they were just a fraction of a cent per coin. Eventually, his girlfriend made him stop. She thought that the computer doing the mining was, quote, getting too noisy. James later ended up throwing the hard drive in the trash. And today, this mistake cost him over $400 million.
To get your money, you would need that hard drive.
Yeah, there's a specific file on that hard drive called a wallet file, which the Bitcoin is stored in. And without that file, there is no way of getting the money back because there is no central server that records a log of it.
In 2010, Laszlo Hanyecz bought 2 pizzas for 10,000 Bitcoin, or about $35 at the time. It wasn't the first transaction in Bitcoin, but certainly the most widely publicized.
You recognize this,
Unfortunately,
Ben?
today, these delicious pizzas cost him $500 million.
Is it true some people celebrate the anniversary of the day you bought the pizza?
Yeah, May 22nd, Bitcoin Pizza Day. So
It's called Bitcoin Pizza Day.
it is.
It's stories like this that make Bitcoin such a fascinating phenomenon. Its growth and adoption, at least over recent years, has been mind-blowing. But the story of how Bitcoin came to be is just as interesting. Despite Bitcoin's young age when compared to
We're going
traditional
to get
stores of
into
value, the fundamental
some
idea
of this, but Bitcoin, there is so much information out there. So clearly we can't cover it all. This is going to be our take. I'm going to try and hone in on some stuff that is the most important, I feel. And Bitcoin is a system for electronic transactions without relying on trust. That is what Bitcoin is about. That is what blockchain is about. That is the foundation. That is the reason that it all came about, is a problem that many people, because it was many years in the working, that brought Bitcoin to fruition in 2009. This wasn't just something that popped up. It was the solving of a problem that was ultimately magnified when the collapse happened in 2008. So, Ben, I personally like line charts, line graphs that kind of give the whole, like, so I can look at the whole picture in one condensed area. And as you can see, there is a lot leading up to the birth of Bitcoin. This just goes up to 2009, but they've, at least according to this graph, it goes way back to 1973 with cryptology and creating a language that basically eliminates the greed and the power struggle from the human person and clears it up so that it can be trusted. So just like I said, a system for electronic transactions without relying on trust. That is what Bitcoin is. Decentralization is the key. And so this goes way back to cryptology. They're trying to solve these different problems, but there's some major highlights here. And go ahead and pull us back off there, would you, again? All right, Ben, you know my love for time graphs, charts, so you can get a big picture here. Bitcoin goes way back. It just didn't show up on the scene in 2008, 2009. It started, and it wasn't known as Bitcoin, but the technology, the demand started way back in the 1970s with cryptology. But the idea was the same. Individuals were already seeing there needed to be decentralization when it came to currency. Human hands, the power-hungry, money grubber human hands were already manipulating currencies. They've been doing that, since currency has been a thing for thousands of years. So these individuals start creating this cryptology or using it in a currency fashion way back in the 70s. Fast forward, this David Chum in 1989 creates DigiCash, which over a few years ends up becoming eCash. And it actually gets the attention of Bill Gates and Microsoft, who make a rumored offer for $100 million, roughly in 94, 95, because Microsoft wanted to incorporate eCash into every Windows 95 application. That was where they were already seeing the need and demand for this possible digital currency. Could you pull us off that screen there so we can take a look a little bit better? As that starts progressing along, you get in 1996, the NSA actually writes an article titled "How to Make a Mint," where it goes in and is talking about cryptocurrency and the possible need for cryptocurrency and how it can be built. Again, one of the common factors with what David Chum was doing, the NSA, these early things, is everything was still had to be controlled by a central entity, which ultimately would be banks. And it just wasn't ideal. And it didn't take on because of for a lot of that reason. But as you progress even further and further, you jump up to Nick Szabo, and he starts getting involved with a lot of the actual decentralization and bringing it along. Then you have Wei Dai, who writes this article called B Money, a decentralized database to record text and using types of proof of work. So you start seeing all these little pieces coming together, right? Then fast forward up into the early 2000s, video games and the dot-com bubble and all the e-commerce that is slowly starting to come to the scene. More and more people are realizing it would be extremely beneficial if there was a digital currency to transact within these video games and these e-commerce sites and so forth. So the demand is slowly creating. Then the whole run up with the financial system in the early 2000s, mortgages, all that stuff is booming, going great. And then in 2008, the collapse starts happening. Ultimately, with the Lehman Brothers declaring bankruptcy on September 15th of 2008, that sends everything into a tizzy. And I was involved in real estate way back then, and I specifically remember that day. Up until then, everybody was like, no, it's cool. This is just a correction. It's going to fix itself. No problem. When Lehman Brothers came out and declared bankruptcy, it was like the shit hit the fan. Everybody, like, you know, I was in my 20s at that point. I'd only been in banking for a couple years. So I was listening. I was like, okay, this is normal. Everything's cool. Then Lehman declares bankruptcy, and it goes freaking nuts. Like at that point, everybody is like, if it was a scene, that's where they throw paper up into the air. Like people are jumping out buildings, like chaos. Well, Satoshi, that's a big part of where he ends up finalizing this whole Bitcoin, a peer-to-peer electronic cash system. And the day that it goes live, January 3rd, 2009, the first block, there's an encryption in there that says Chancellor on the brink of second bailout for banks. That right there is what you need to know. That is the reason for Bitcoin. This is why Bitcoin was created, and it is still the only currency in the world that is not centralized by one entity. It is completely, let me say that a different way. It is the only currency in the world that is completely decentralized. The greedy human hands cannot manipulate Bitcoin. It's been tried over the last 12 years in numerous fashions, and a lot of it for good reason, not necessarily evil. They're just trying to improve upon it. And Satoshi and those who were involved with it did such an incredible job of making it completely decentralized. I hate to even say this, but it's been fail-proof to this point, and it has been tested over and over and over and over again, which is why it is not considered a cryptocurrency like all these other currencies. It's lumped in there. It's known as the Big Daddy. It's known as the first. It's known as the biggest market cap within cryptocurrency. It is not the same. Its purpose for creation and its reason for living and its demand are because of its decentralization, fixing a problem that we've had with currency for thousands of years. Manipulation of currency. Bitcoin is the only currency to this point that has not been manipulated, and at this point looks like it cannot be manipulated. Never say never, but as of right now, that is where it's at. That's kind of the story to Bitcoin. So much has happened since then, but that's leading up to that is why Bitcoin is Bitcoin.
Excellent. All right, so now we're going to talk a little bit about how Bitcoin actually works. I've just got a couple of sentences. I don't know how to describe it. It's very hard. Like Ryan was saying, it's real hard to explain Bitcoin. We thought, we're not going to have enough information to do an entire episode on Bitcoin. It turns out we don't have enough episodes to give out all the information on Bitcoin. There's so much stuff. It's very hard to explain, but basically, to sum it up, it's a digital asset that's powered by the open source code known as the blockchain, which creates a shared public history of transactions organized into blocks. So that's the blocks that are getting chained together. So all that information, anything that ever happens on the Bitcoin blockchain gets put on there. And this is why it's incorruptible, because all the information's coming from all these different miners, and it all has to be agreed on upon everybody. And there's no central server that runs it all. It's not like if you went and blew up the Bank of America servers and they'd have no idea who was owed what. This all goes on to the same blockchain, and every computer that mines Bitcoin has all of that information on there from the start of Bitcoin to now. So they get chained together to prevent tampering, and this technology creates a permanent record of each transaction, and it provides a way for every Bitcoin user to operate with the same understanding of who owns what. So anybody can look on this. So when they talk about it's a cryptography in the way that it was created, but crypto means secret, and Bitcoin's not really secret because, in fact, it's the exact opposite. It's very open and public. You could tell who the wallets, you could tell which wallets it is, but not necessarily who owns it. But you can see everything that happens on the Bitcoin blockchain as it's happening. So it's a very open source, very transparent financial system that doesn't allow shady stuff to happen. I mean, you can buy drugs on it or you can donate to church on it, but all of that information goes right on there and anybody can see what's happening on the line. So there's, pardon me. So it's not like if you're buying Bitcoin or if you're trading Bitcoin somewhere, somebody's making more Bitcoin and throwing them on the top. There's only going to be 21 million. So it's not something that Bank of America can go, oh, you know what? This isn't going fast enough. We need to create more Bitcoin so there's more fluidity in the system. So we're just going to create some more. You can see everything that there is. You can see when Bitcoin moves. You can see the wallets that hold the most Bitcoin. You can see when something strange happens, like one of those wallets gets dumped into 10 other wallets and that Bitcoin gets moved around. So it's very transparent, which is very anti-traditional finance because you don't know, I mean, FTX is a perfect example. They say everything is fine. Enron is a perfect example. Lehman Brothers, all of these companies are like, oh, everything is fine. Your funds are safe. When there's no funds, everything is terrible. And 10 minutes later, you find out they've been lying to you for months. So
it reminds me of when the coaches, they ask, Ben, you're the head coach of the Buffalo Bills. We understand that you've just been offered a job with New England. Are you planning on taking that? Absolutely not.
Right.
I will not. Buffalo is my home. Been a Buffalo fan my whole life. I will never go to New England. Next day, I'm going to New England.
By the way, I signed that paper last week. Yeah.
Right, exactly.
Right.
Like you can't and they just, same thing with the financial system. Nope, we're cash heavy. We're all good, no problems. Oh, turns out our accountant, we paid him enough, so he would just fudge the books anyway. So he's a crook. He's going to take the fall for it. You lying sacks of.
And when we do our Ethereum episode, we'll talk about smart contracts. So if I would have signed that contract with the Patriots a week before, people would have known when it happened. You know what I mean? Like there's no way to hide that. And that's
on the blockchain.
Yeah, that's one of the beauties of it.
Yeah.
Dated, stamped, and done. I couldn't get in there and change it. They couldn't get in there and change it. It's just a really good system. And like Ryan was talking about, it's born out of a really terrible system. And actually, all the work that went into it, nothing was actually created until the financial collapse of 2008. Once they saw how bad the system was, that was when the new system was finally created as an alternative. It was created by Satoshi Nakamoto, which is either a man, a woman, or a group of people. It's a anonymous, like I said, person or group of people that created this. And they understood that if they stuck with it, if Ryan created this, then Ryan is kind of responsible for this. And Ryan gets the brunt of the bad information, and people accuse Ryan of doing this to be shady. But the fact that it was anonymous and then set out into the world and nobody took credit for it. No real person took credit and said, hey, I'm the guy who actually, a lot of people have said that.
Yeah.
But because a lot of people have said that, nobody still knows who the original Satoshi Nakamoto is. But
yeah, because it was and that's worth noting, which you just kind of hinted about. Bitcoin was not the first currency. It was not the first cryptocurrency. There was others before that, but all of them basically failed. Although they may be around, they all failed or did not escalate to what Bitcoin did, because there was always one, just hate to use him again, but like Bankman-Fried, there was one little back door. Like all the currencies prior to this, there was still one person had the ability to go in there and manipulate the code or whatever. There was like, and it was always it wasn't like it was always for good reason. Either they didn't tell you, or they said, hey, yeah, I'm able to still go in there, but it's only if we have a problem, or like Bitcoin is not that way. Once it was like Frankenstein. Once they freaking charged him up, he's on his own. Like, you ain't stopping it. There's nothing you can do to turn that around.
That's a good way to put it, because now, even if Satoshi wanted to say, you know what, everybody give me back my Bitcoins, that's not how it works. Now, this is what we talk about on the channel all the time, is true ownership. Now that it's out there, people own it. The people who own it. And they can't be forced to give it back. Like, it's out there, it's on its own. And because nobody took credit for it, because the money was released, there were no initial coin offerings or pre-sale. Nobody got 1,000. Nobody who helped Satoshi Nakamoto got 10,000 Bitcoins to just hold on to.
Right.
It was released organically. He released the code on how to mine the Bitcoins, and it just started. They started mining, and then he just poof, gone. Stopped replying to emails. Stopped, talking to even the other group of cryptographers that were kind of in on this, and just sort of released it out into the world. And now it is what it is. And that's why, some of the old Bitcoin, some of the early stuff that got mined and people didn't really think much of it and kind of tossed their computers or got rid of stuff, that Bitcoin has never moved. And that the amount of money that's available out there in the Bitcoin that's never moved, if somebody had the ability to go, well, let's just backdoor it. That hasn't moved in a while, so they're probably not using it. That's probably on a hard drive that was thrown into the dump. If the ability was there to get that money, they would go get it. You know what I mean? And that's one of the things you can, Michael Saylor talks about this a lot. Bitcoin's the only asset that you can actually take to your death. If you have the codes and you're the only person with the codes, you can have $10 billion locked up. And if the codes are in your head and you die without giving anybody that information, those coins are locked up forever, unless somebody can guess your 12-word passphrase or your private keys, which is almost impossible,
Yeah. This guy, like we just watched, he has $400 million. And this video was from a year ago. So that probably meant Bitcoin was at 60 grand or whatever.
So let's say 100 million now.
Yeah. And it got throughout. And wouldn't you know, it was a woman's fault. Your computers are making too much noise. Are you going to buy me a ring or what? No. Apologize. I'm kidding.
142 million. He said he had 7,500 Bitcoins on there. Yeah. He's at 142 million.
Yeah. And if somebody had a back door, that guy could go in and maybe recover it. So this is the downside, right? It's nobody can touch it. It's yours. It's yours. But if you lose it, it's gone. There's no back door for somebody to come in and that you can and fix it. It's non-existent.
It's one of the benefits of traditional finance. If somebody steals your credit card information and goes and buys something, you can call Bank of America and say, hey, that wasn't me. And they go, oh, okay. And they put the money back in your account and they cancel the payment that's going out the other way. And it's like there's somebody you can talk to, but this is actual ownership. This is if somebody steals your rock and you didn't see who it was. That rock is gone. You can't go find somebody and say, hey, that guy took. I mean, you can just like anything else that's stolen, you can file a police report, but it was really yours and now it's really theirs. It's gone. So the way a Bitcoin is set up, because like we talk about, it's supposed to improve the ability to transfer value. It's not traded one Bitcoin at a time. it can be, but it can also be broken down into Satoshis. And each, I think not each Bitcoin, I don't know how many are in each one, but there's 21 million Bitcoins. So there will only ever be 21 trillion Satoshis. And so I think is a Satoshi is at 1/100,000th.
I'm
Let me
not
see.
sure. I hadn't even seen that. And
I got it right here. Go ahead.
To clarify, there's not currently 21 million. There will only ever be 21 million by 2040 is when the last
Bitcoin is mined.
Yeah. Yep.
So the smallest denomination of each Bitcoin is called a Satoshi. That name sounds familiar. We just talked about the creator of Bitcoin was the anonymous person or persons called Satoshi Nakamoto. So the smallest factor that you can break it up into is a Satoshi. Each Satoshi is equivalent to 1/100 millionth of one Bitcoin. So there are going to be 21 million Bitcoin. That makes 2.1 trillion Satoshis. That means right now you could be trading for pennies, and it breaks it down. Now imagine trying to, pay for a cup of coffee or buy a stick of gum, and all you had was one gold coin. The difficulty level on that is very high, but it's not the case with Bitcoin. And that's one of the things that was kind of meant to improve on the current financial system. One of the things that Satoshi Nakamoto did on purpose to make it more divisible.
Yeah. See a need, fill a need. And boy, did he.
Yeah. So I'm trying to make sure I've given you the big points. Again, there's so much stuff that it's very hard to describe Bitcoin. And I thought it was super easy, but it's very hard to describe it when you're trying to be specific. It's
simplistic, but the idea of it, the substance, is a complete paradigm shift. I think is what makes it so hard. The operation of it is not complicated. It's transparent, like you said, but it's just different than anything we know.
Yeah. So it's I think originally it was supposed to be new cash, like it was supposed to be a new way to transfer money. Since then, it has sort of adopted into more of a store of wealth, and it's not quite where it needs to be yet. It's still very young, especially when you think about it in parallel to other currencies in the world. So it's kind of getting into its own spot. One of the main guys, one of the huge Bitcoin proponents, his name is Michael Saylor. He talks. I'm going to put a link to this one video that he has. He has a ton of videos. And in fact, he owns, I just found this, Michael.com. Did you know that?
No, I did
Michael
not.
Saylor owns Michael.com. To give you an idea of how rich this guy is, he's got billions of dollars in Bitcoin personally, and then his company owns it also. But yeah, he owns Michael.com. So that's pretty impressive. He's got this video here. I think it's just 56 seconds long that kind of gives you an idea. A fun, I don't know how, there's so many ways to describe it. Hearing a billionaire explain it is always interesting. So here.
And every civilization has suffered from it at one point in time. What is Bitcoin? Well, Bitcoin is the world's first engineered monetary system. And what happened is a set of engineers, nameless engineers, recoiled in horror after the great financial crisis with all the bank bailouts. And they looked and they said, this just isn't fair. It isn't right. We want to create a better money. And they used two technologies. They used the internet, the idea that I could network hundreds of thousands or millions of computers. And they used cryptography, the idea that I could cryptographically sign something so that it could not be tampered with anyone, friend or foe. And using those two technologies, they conceptualized the idea of an immutable ledger, if you will, a bank in cyberspace. What if 100 people?
A bank in cyberspace is how he describes it. Let's see. Bitcoin is a bank in cyberspace run by incorruptible software, offering a global, affordable, simple, and secure savings account to billions of people that don't have the option or the desire to run their own hedge fund. That's one of his quotes on his website, Michael.com. I don't even think Ryan and we've spent the last year trying to understand Web3 and crypto, and I feel like we're still a ways away from what Bitcoin is and what it will be.
100%. But every time I get to something like this, I think of what the thing that you told me. You don't have to understand how it works to be able to utilize it and believe in it. And that also makes me think of, we're in the US. We grew up here in the US. You came back from England, but close enough. We don't understand what it's like to operate under a currency and a government where the currency is not a steady value, even though that's questionable, but with inflation and everything. But for the most part, the dollar is, you go to other countries, and we'll use third world countries, where their currency is devalued and is worth nothing. It's worth something one day, nothing the next day, and absolutely dirt the following day. You got to try and think about that when you're talking about a currency that's a technology, a currency like Michael Sayer's saying, that is transparent, it's incorruptible, like it is what it is. Like, how valuable is that to the billions of people that live in poverty across the world? Like, we think only with our American brains, but like,
yeah, he has another video. I don't have it loaded up, but he has another one where he's talking. He's like, think about how terrible the US dollar is. Think about how what it bought you this year, what it'll be able to buy you next year, what you're not going to be able to buy the year after that. Like how much it fluctuates, how it basically, it's not backed by gold anymore. They can just print as much of it as they want. Think about how ridiculous that is. And it's still the number one currency in the world. Then he said, he talks about Greece going bankrupt and all these countries like really taking a hit. And then he talked about, I think, Venezuela.
Yeah.
He had $1 million in a Venezuelan bank account. And basically, because their currency was getting so rough, they told the banks, they said, basically, you're taking any money that's in there. And he basically went from $1 million to $100,000 in value overnight. And the government took the rest to try to balance out some of it. And he's like that, 90% of his money was gone. And, like you said, it's hard for us to imagine as Americans what that's like. We're frustrated when the loaf of bread we bought this week is $4 and last week it was $2. And he said that's still the best system in fiat. Right. So now you have this other system where they can't just print more money. They can't just find more Bitcoin. They can't just create more something out of nothing. What it is what it is. And that's what the point of it is, to improve the current global financial system.
Yes, it has, through trust, through decentralization, through trust, which no other currency has. And it appears to have done that, at least to this point. So as long as there's a demand and a trust in it, and as long as human hands can't touch it, those are going to exist and the demand's going to be there. It's being utilized on a daily basis by people of poverty already. It's not just a store value, although that seems like its main purpose and is very good. It is being utilized because it's trusted amongst other people.
Yeah. By countries are buying it, companies are buying it, poor people are buying it, rich people are buying it. Anywhere in the world, there's not another currency. Well, I was going to say besides gold, but again, it's very hard for a poor person to buy any amount of gold because an actual amount of gold is pretty expensive, and people aren't buying flecks of gold. You know what I mean? But you could buy a fleck, a Satoshi of a Bitcoin, no matter how much money you have, and you don't have to worry about losing it. You don't have to worry about accidentally breathing too hard and it going away. Once you have it, you have it.
Very freaking awesome.
A few moments later.
Ben, where does Bitcoin come from? Mining.
Storks.
It comes from mining.
Gotcha. Not storks.
No, that might be simpler or less confusing, I think, because mining tends to confuse people, including myself. Although it's like a lot of things with Web3, it's just a bit different paradigm shift. It's not that confusing. I'm going to break it down for you real quick. because it's part of this Bitcoin episode. So you know what mining is, right? It's where you dig in the earth to remove some type of precious material, or metal, whatever, gold. Instead of thinking about picks and axes and heavy equipment that you use for regular mining, instead, with cryptocurrency, Bitcoin in this case, you use high-powered computers. And those high-powered computers solve complex math problems. Once those math problems are solved, or, it's a competition, but whoever the winning computer or miner is that solves that complex math problem has officially mined that Bitcoin, which means it gets placed onto the Bitcoin blockchain ledger. So basically, the computer solves a complex math problem. It's the first one to do it. You get what's called a Bitcoin reward per block. So only one person gets it per block, or only one miner gets it per block. And currently, that reward is 6.25 Bitcoin. Now, in 2008, when the very first Bitcoin was mined, it was 50 Bitcoin. Then it dropped to 25, then 12.5. Now it's at 6.25. So they call that a halving. Every 4 years, or every 210,000 blocks of Bitcoin that is mined, which that takes about 4 years if you do the math, because it takes an average of 10 minutes. So every 4 years, that Bitcoin reward gets halved, and it slowly becomes less and less and less. And of course, Bitcoin has continued to increase in price over those periods, even though we've had fluctuations. It slowly goes up. So even though in 2008 you got 50 Bitcoin, it wasn't worth a pizza then. Now you get 6.25 at roughly 17,000 a Bitcoin. Obviously, there's tremendous value there. So there's a lot of competition for miners to be the first one to solve these math problems, or mine and win these Bitcoins. And so kind of an interesting fact here is there's just over 18 million Bitcoin in circulation right now. There's only 21 million total that can ever be mined. So there will never ever be more than 21 million Bitcoin in circulation. You've got just over 18 million right now. The next 3 million, or the remaining 3 million, are going to take another 118 years to be mined.
So I'll be very old when I finally get to see the last Bitcoin get mined.
That's right. You would have been alive when the first happened. And,
that's true.
Yeah, still living. If Abby has her way, you're probably not going to make it that far, but we like to think that's possible. So that's, to me, I think that's a fun fact. So, so basically the last year, if you do the calculation of the halvings every 4 years, the amount being mined every 4 years of 210,000, it equals out to be the last Bitcoin will be mined in 2140, 118 years from now, which is currently 2022.
Yeah, I guess so. I'd only be 153 years old.
You were paying attention.
Yeah, with the advances in modern medicine and Web3 storing all of my medical records, I should live long beyond that. I'm not worried about that. I should be able to see the start and finish of the Bitcoin mining. That'd be pretty interesting.
Can you imagine what your Ninja Turtle collection will be worth in 118 years?
It's crazy. It's crazy. What episode will MetaMentors be on in 118 years?
God, look, I don't know about you, but I plan to be looking really good by the time we get to the last Bitcoin.
You know what? Let's say something to our future selves. So, Ben, now that the last Bitcoin has been mined, hopefully you've acquired your share of at least 50 of them. Congratulations. Go buy something fancy.
You're rich, bitch.
So this is 2022. Yeah. So when they dig up my computer and play this message, they'll be like, "Oh, he was so stupid."
he looked like Grizzly Adams back in 2022.
Yeah. He said nobody owns a full Bitcoin. That's what they're going to say in the future.
Right.
Only the super wealthy own an entire Bitcoin.
Right. That's, I mean, a fraction of it is. That's going to take us down a whole nother road. Let me wrap up this mining. I don't know if I mentioned this, but basically by the time we get to 2140, you'll have a total of 33 halvings. So 33 times 4 years, that'll put you at 2140. So 33 halvings. The last block of Bitcoin, the reward is, and I'm going to have this wrong, but it's something like 0.00001. Not quite that many zeros, but a lot, like 5, 6, 8 zeros or something crazy like that. So it'll be a fraction of a Bitcoin, but it won't even matter because Bitcoin, BTC at that point will be worth so much money. Even that fraction will be well worth the process of going through the mining, because operating these machines, these high-powered computers, it's not cheap. They're not cheap to buy. They're not cheap to run. But obviously with BTC and Bitcoin, the value of it, they're going to be super, super valuable, incredibly valuable. One last kind of fun fact. Satoshi, who obviously created Bitcoin, whether it's a person or a group of people or whatever, was so genius in how he created this block, or how he created this process of mining Bitcoin and the time frame and everything. I mean, a fun last fact here. The more miners that are competing for the Bitcoin, the harder the math problem is to solve. The less competing, the easier the math problem is to solve. It actually fluctuates based on the amount of competition.
Interesting.
And that's what kind of helps also keep it at an average of 10 minutes every block.
That makes sense. So it's actually in our best interest, if we want our weak computers to mine Bitcoin, to tell everybody that Bitcoin's terrible and that it's probably going to go away. Get all the competition out of there. And then with my 9-year-old laptop, I can finally start mining Bitcoin and it won't fry it, because it'll be a much easier problem to solve. All right.
Yeah. That is 100% right. You use your 9-year-old laptop, you plug it in and you get it, and you just rock out that Bitcoin. You'll probably produce, I mean, you'll be winning each block every 10 minutes at 6.25. I mean, in one day.
Right. That's what I'm thinking, is if I could just get the whole block every time, then for the next 118 years, that would be perfect.
Yeah, these idiots with hundreds of millions of dollars of computers and warehouses, what a waste. You're whipping them with we laugh about it, but that's clearly not going to happen. But along this path, we've had numerous people shortcut the system or figure out a way to cut a corner. Some of it not, legally, and some of it legally, but there's been people usually between 8 years old and 15 years old that figure out a way to fast track the system. So there's probably some stuff that can be done. I'm definitely not smart enough to do that, but anyways, that is what I've got on Bitcoin. The total, never more than 21 million, currently around 18 million. Mining is just solving complex problems with high powered computers.
So basically, the last thing we need to talk about then is how to store your Bitcoin. Like we've said in the last several episodes, Ryan says, practice safe sex. The centralized exchanges, I don't even know if you can really store them on decentralized exchanges, but when you have it on an exchange, the odds of it getting hacked, or the exchange getting hacked and someone getting your codes or your keys, are greater than if you take them off the exchange and store them in what is known as a Bitcoin wallet or a crypto wallet. There are two main different types of crypto wallets. There's cold wallets and hot wallets. Hot wallets are online, on the computer. Some of them are centralized, some are decentralized, but they're readily accessible without hardware. A cold wallet is offline. In fact, you can even store them on paper if you wanted to. If you wanted to print off your Bitcoin key, your private key, and store it basically on a paper wallet. You can put that into a bank's safe deposit box or your own safe in your house if you wanted to, or not that you could, but if you could remember all of your keys, you could technically store Bitcoin in your head, which again is another thing that makes Bitcoin so revolutionary, is it is the only actual currency, the only actual store of value that can be held in your head. And if you die with it in your head, it literally goes to the grave with you. No one else can recover it, which is dangerous when you think about it. I mean, what if somebody with
Scary
1 million
and cool.
Bitcoins died with the information? I mean, that takes it down from 21 million to 20 million.
Or got a concussion or
Yeah.
unconscious for
Yeah. So the point of this, all of this leads into storing your Bitcoin is very important, because more like, what were you going to say?
I'm sorry. It's very important because it's going to be worth a fortune in the near future.
Yeah, there you go. If you lose a $20 bill and next winter you find it and it's in the pocket of one of your coats, the value of it has gone down. Movie ticket prices, everything's more expensive. So that $20 that you found, that's less. But if you lose your Bitcoin, like that guy who lost, it was at the beginning of this episode, 7,500 Bitcoins, and he lost it in the dump. It was only worth a couple $100 when he first lost it in the dump. Then it was worth $400 million. And who knows, every year, him and the Bitcoin pizza guy, every year that Bitcoin goes up and up and up, that mistake becomes more and more painful. So, very important.
And they just won't let it go either. Like,
I wouldn't.
The phone's ringing for interviews. You'd be so over that.
Yeah, I would. I'd be so frustrated. I don't know if I could let it go. I would tell everybody, well, I had 7,500 Bitcoins. But so the point of it is, it's very important to store your Bitcoin safely, because if you store it safely and then you come back and you find it in 20 years, it's going to be worth a lot more than the money that you accidentally left in your pocket. The two options, hot and cold. Hot is obviously riskier because you can access it anywhere. If I move, go to a different country, log onto a computer there, bring up my wallet, type in my keys, I can do that. But that means anybody in the world can access it at the same time. If you store it on a cold wallet offline, it means you either need to have that piece of paper or you need to have access to the actual hardware along with the keys to get it. So you can see
hardware being like a USB.
Yeah, like these. It's like any other storage device, but it does not allow for other programs to be on there. So you can never get. They've got all sorts of like hacking software, malware, stuff that can get put on there, and then it can read your codes and stuff. If you were just using a regular USB drive, they could put anything on there. But these offline cold crypto wallets are designed to not allow any other software on there, only the codes and the keys to your crypto. So it makes it very hard to steal, but it also makes it, if you lose that hardware, it's also not a good situation. It's just so important to make sure you have a plan. If you bought a bunch of crypto right now and you spent thousands of dollars, it would be terrible if you lost it. But if that thousands of dollars turns into millions of dollars and you couldn't remember your codes or you couldn't remember where you left your ledger, then it would be heartbreaking. You can see behind me here, I've got a list of the best cold wallets. You can go to Google. I'm going to put this link in the description of our video, but you can go to Google and type in the best cold wallets. Because it's such a new technology, there are a lot of options, but it's going to be the same options on basically every website. This isn't, this isn't like
all inclusive.
Yeah, well, it's not like music. It's not like you go type in what are the best songs of 2020. It all that depends on your taste. But there's only a few companies that are building the quality crypto wallets that you would trust. Atomic Wallet, Trezor, Ledger. These are some of the most popular ones, and they're all fairly affordable. They're just small. Like I said, they're like USB drives, but they're designed specifically for storing crypto offline. You can use the centralized exchanges. We haven't really talked about centralized exchanges in this episode, or decentralized, but you can buy your crypto on these exchanges and then quickly, once everything clears, get it off the exchange and store it on these wallets. Yeah. So if you were buying your crypto on FTX, if you left it on FTX when it went into bankruptcy, you've probably lost it all. You've definitely lost access to it right now. But had you bought it on that shitty exchange and then immediately transferred it to your offline wallet, it doesn't matter. Your crypto is safe. You can use unsafe exchanges and you can acquire crypto in unsafe ways as long as you store it in a safe manner. And some of these behind us, like, you can click on there and figure out which one best fits your budget and how safe and secure you want to be and what works with your computer and the hardware that you want to work with. Another way that's not as safe is called a hot wallet. And these are either on decentralized, they're either decentralized wallets like a MetaMask or a centralized wallet like the Coinbase. I think that is number one, the Coinbase wallet. And I actually have a bunch of stuff on the Coinbase wallet, and that is not on the exchange. So that is technically separate. If something were to happen to Coinbase, then the wallet system that they've created is a separate entity. So it should be a little bit more protected, than Coinbase. But Coinbase itself should be a little bit more protected than like an FTX. So you shouldn't have the problems that went with that. But some of these hot wallets, Coinbase I use. There's a SafePal, Crypto.com DeFi wallet I also use. Exodus seems to be like the most popular one that a lot of the crypto guys use. I always hear them talking about the Exodus wallet. And then I use the Coinbase decentralized app wallet as well, because they need that for a lot of their staking stuff. So, and then I think Ryan and I both use MetaMask. MetaMask seems to be universally acceptable, but one thing that I'm starting to notice about MetaMask is I'm starting to use it on a lot of projects, including projects that I'm not 100% trusting in. And then it starts to make me nervous because I'm using the same MetaMask wallet that's holding all of my crypto on one that I'm just sort of testing out. So I think you can have multiple MetaMask wallets. That might be the route to go. But if I were you, I would use one wallet at least for storing and one wallet for actively exploring the Web3. So don't have all of your Ethereum on the wallet that you're using to log in and sign in to every account, because until the whole industry becomes a little bit safer and not regulated, but a little bit more understood, and who's got access to your information, it's dangerous out there. And as Ryan will tell you, if they can get your information, they will. And the thing about this is they'll sit right there and talk to your face and be like, and make fun of you for not having better NFTs.
Yeah. If see our video of me getting hacked and the conversation I had with my hacker, which was incredibly painful. But that was one of the first lessons I learned is I have a wallet that I accumulate or hold in, and I have a wallet that oversees my transactions. And there's a little bit of additional cost with the gas fees, but if they get my transactional wallet, there's minimal currency in there and nothing else, because it's a pass through basically.
It'll be years of transaction fees before Ryan makes up what he lost in a few of his NFTs. Yeah. So it is expensive, but that's the price you pay when you stop dealing with, there's a reason Bank of America gives people free checking accounts, and it's because they make their money from you somewhere else. So when you have to start doing all of this self-custody, when you have to start owning your money and owning the manner with which you use it and spend it, it is a little bit more expensive or a little bit more risky. Depends on which you get to decide whether you want to be risky or whether you want to be super safe and pay a little bit more. And that's kind of the beauty of the entire Web3 industry, is that's every project. You get to decide your level of involvement. You get to decide how far into it you want to go. If you just want to play the games, if you want to invest in the games, if you want to be a member of the DAO and control the games, that's the beauty of it. But that's besides the point. That's a whole nother episode. We're talking about wallets here. I like what Ryan said. Have a wallet for acquiring, like in holding. Have the wallet that you're putting stuff into, and then have the one that you're actually going out and buying stuff with and exchanging with and using on the exchanges and using like for logging into different Web3 projects. And then
the third part, and so I have a hot wallet I buy stuff with, and then transfer it over to my hot wallet that holds, but it's very minimal holding there because then it goes into a cold wallet.
And then that's what I was going to say. I don't have enough money in crypto right now. I should, but as I get more money into crypto, especially when you start owning several Ethereums and big chunks of Bitcoin, you're going to want to look into getting a cold wallet and really taking your financial security serious, because you don't want to be the guy on the news saying, well, I had 750 Bitcoin, but I couldn't remember my password.
And it happens a lot. A lot of people are getting hacked projects that are 1,000 times smarter than me. So it does happen.
For every ding dong that's willing to go on the news and talk about how he lost 7,500 Bitcoin, there's probably 1,000 people that have lost other amounts of crypto, either maliciously or boneheadedness, that don't want to talk about it. But it's a very real issue. Like I said, this isn't like a Bank of America where if you wake up one day and there's money missing from your account, you have phone numbers to call. You could say, what the heck is going on? Yesterday I had this much. Today I have this much. I don't authorize any of these payments. And they put a whole team of people on it to go figure out what happened. You don't have that in the Web3 industries. So doing your research and grabbing one of these good cold wallets and using safe hot wallets and using proper not strategy, but knowing what you're doing while you're in the Web3, like not telling people your 12-word passphrase, simple things that can make it, real easy for somebody to steal all your money.
Yeah. Hopefully I learned my lesson.
Yeah, that's, Ryan learned his lesson for a fairly small amount.
Correct.
Compared to what some people have to learn. Even Kevin O'Leary talks about the first time he lost his money, and it was around $50,000 when somebody got into his wallet. So
idiot.
Yeah, dork. Well, he also trusts Sam Bankman-Fried even after he found out that he was a fraud. So Kevin O'Leary might not be the best person to get your crypto advice from. I think that's all I have to say on wallets. Is there anything else you'd like to say about Bitcoin?
Man, I love it. I love I love it. The deeper I get, the more I listen to, the more I only want to buy Bitcoin for the foreseeable future.
I think, the last section on our Bitcoin episode is the future of Bitcoin. And basically it was just us talking. We don't know enough about the past or the current state of Bitcoin to really give you too much information about the future. But what Ryan said, I completely agree with, because we've been doing this. We've been researching Web3 heavily for a year now. And what started out with, oh my gosh, I'll buy this coin and I'll buy this coin and I'll do this and I'll use this exchange and I'll stake here and I'll buy these. And, there's so much stuff, and it seems like, how are we ever going to narrow it down? And then this exchange gets exposed for fraud. And then this one collapses because it made too many risky investments. And then this Web3 project hasn't done anything for 18 months and the coin is just slowly dying. And then this coin, only works if this coin's working. And then this guy, it turns out that the stable coin wasn't very stable. And it's like everything kind of collapses down. And the one thing that just trudges on is Bitcoin, which started the whole thing. And if you talk to the Bitcoin maximalists, the guys who invest the most money in crypto almost exclusively invest in Bitcoin. They say if they're betting on anything else, if they're investing in anything else, it is a bet. It's a gamble. They invest in Bitcoin and they gamble with the other stuff, but it's a small portion. And every time you look up any of these videos on YouTube about somebody who knows what they're doing, they're saying, if you're investing in crypto, if you're considering investing in crypto, the first thing you're going to want to do is 50 to 75% of your investment should go to Bitcoin. And then a good chunk to projects like Ethereum or maybe layer 2 Ethereum projects like Polygon. And then a very small portion is the, if you're investing $1,000, maybe you YOLO 50 to 100 into some of these smaller projects.
Shit coins.
To shit coins. Because there's so many of them. And some of them, no doubt, there are people that are going to make a lot of money. But it's just like going to the casinos in Vegas. Yes, you'll always hear stories about the person that hit $1 million on the slot machine. But that's because the 10 million people who didn't hit that on the slot machine don't tell their story when they leave Vegas. You know what I mean? Overall, especially for the last year, the market's done nothing but come down, even with Bitcoin. But Bitcoin has always came back, and it's been around for now 11, 12 years. And that's, because of the nature of how it was created, because of the nature of how it's ran, because of the tokenomics of it, it's the preferred asset choice in Web3 for the smartest investors.
It is so much more than a currency. It is so much more than a currency. And if you're watching this and you don't know much about Bitcoin, but you're looking into this, just start researching, because the more that I get into this, the more that we get into this, it's just clear as day. And it's because it's way more than a currency.
Yeah.
It's changing everything. It was the first, and it's still the most revolutionary.
I'm going to put some links in the description of this video, but if you're just Googling or just looking on YouTube, Michael Saylor or Anthony Pompliano are huge Bitcoin. Saylor is a Bitcoin maximalist. He's a Bitcoin or die guy. Pompliano is a pro Bitcoin guy that's got an open mind for everything else. He doesn't consider himself a maximalist, but he has nothing but positive things to say about Bitcoin. So both very good perspectives if you're looking to learn, and they present it obviously so much better than we do. We're learning from them. So great resources to get your information from on Bitcoin.
Agreed.